Hello and welcome to Witch Please, a fortnightly podcast about the Harry Potter world. I'm Marcel Cosman, bringing you another Matt Leave minisode. Before I introduce this week's episode, dear listeners, it is my great pleasure to announce next fortnight's Christmas special, A Very Witch Please Christmas, featuring erstwhile tech support Trevor Chow Fraser, actual guy with a film degree Neil Barnholden, a hippogriff baby, and your ever festive hosts, Hannah McGregor, and me, Marcel Cosman. It'll be a spiked vegan eggnog-fueled departure from our regular incomprehensible schedule of episodes, and we hope it'll keep you warm and cozy as we disband for the Goyish holiday season. This week on the podcast, we wind our time turners back 1,560 turns to September 27th in order to revisit the Edmonton Comics and Entertainment Expo. We're going to hear all about Quidditch IRL from the talented players of the Edmonton Aurors and Central Alberta Quidditch teams. And now, without further ado, we bring you Quidditch in Edmonton.
So welcome to the Quidditch panel about Quidditch in Edmonton. We have, there's me. I'm Veronique, and I deal with all of the money situations happening for the Edmonton Aurors.
My name's Marisha, and I do all the marketing and communication, so all the social media. If you follow us, that's me.
Hello, my name's Chris Radyevsky, and I'm the coach of the Edmonton Aurors.
I'm Cameron Mendoza, and I am, I guess, officially a Quidditch enthusiast.
Yeah, that was the best title we could think for Cameron, officially. So that's us. We are a bunch of people, but we decided 4 people was probably more than enough to speak at a panel.
All right, Quidditch is, I think it's a pretty magical thing, but there's something really about seeing it that really is, you have to see it in order to really get it. So we were lucky enough earlier in this year to team up with TELUS Optic and get a little intro video going. So we can show that for you now, and so you can hopefully get a bit of the magic.
Reading was a huge part of my life, and so reading the Harry Potter books, I asked Santa Claus for a book on trains, and I got the box set because there was a train on the front of it. From there, really, I just loved reading the books. My name is Christopher Radyevsky. We're in Edmonton, Alberta at the Kinsman Park, and we're playing Quidditch. The really awesome part about Quidditch is you bring together a really dynamic set of people. And at first, while a lot of people are brought in because of the relation to Harry Potter, whether the love of the books or the movies, you could almost say it's a generational thing. Okay, you ready to go? Go. Don't be afraid. In my case, I came from the relation to Harry Potter in the beginning, but the sports developed almost a whole new sort of world for me separately that I consider this a sport just as along the lines of running track and field, which I used to do, basketball, soccer, things like that. Yes! The sport itself brings together so many facets of different sports, whether that's dodgeball, track and field, handball, soccer, basketball. So not only are people of all types attracted to this game, we need all types of people to play this game effectively.
Good job, guys! Whoa, look at the aim on him!
I got started actually, Cameron is in my orientation group at the university. Said, hey, by chance, do you wanna play Quidditch? And I'm a huge Harry Potter nerd, so I was just like, do I wanna play Quidditch more than my lungs wanna breathe air? I always enjoyed sports, but I always felt like maybe the fact that I'm 5'2" and shorter, especially I really like volleyball and all of these things, and I can't quite reach the net.
One of the aspects I like is it gets people that maybe aren't necessarily engaged in sport through a love of the books or the movies. The other thing is it's a very progressive sport. It's an all-gendered sport, so not even your typical co-ed. It really doesn't matter to us. We just play the game and we make sure everybody's able to play that sport. So nobody should be intimidated to come out and try the game. We're all welcoming. We're all in that position where we're putting a broom between our legs for the first time going, what are we doing? But really come out and try it, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Don't you just want to join?
We we kind of watch it on a loop now because it just looks really cool, though Marisha and I are both really bummed that we're not in it. And that's probably the only critic we have because we're awesome. So we'll just move on. So different positions.
Yeah, so I'm sure you really want to know how to actually play Quidditch. So I'll start with the Seeker. The Seeker is actually, so first of all, I guess the positions are identified by the color of the headband that you play. So you play with like a jersey of your team and then the headband that identifies your color. So Seekers are in yellow and they catch the snitch. And Cameron is modeling our snitch shorts today. So the snitch is actually a person who gets chased by the Seekers.
To end the game, you have to pull the snitch itself off. And the only thing you can't do is, that's all the Seeker can do. But however, the snitch can do whatever they want to the Seekers. Push
like
them,
shove.
shove them, mess up the hair, which I worked really hard to get this morning. No, not necessarily. But
You can also like take broom. They used to be able to climb trees and do a whole bunch of other shenanigans, but that became dangerous very quickly. And we're not wizards and witches, so we can't skelly grow all of our bones back together.
Exactly. So that's the most exciting position. Then there's the chasers who, you know, score points, whatever.
They do are identified
Like
with the white
Cameron
headband.
is wearing the white headband. Then there's the beaters, which I am a beater. And we play with bludgers. So we basically just hit other players out. And if you get hit by a bludger, you just have to run back to your hoops, touch your hoops, and then you're back in the game. And then there's the keepers who are basically just chasers, but they can't get like hit out in their zone.
Yeah.
Glorified chasers.
They can also like stick their hand through the hoops and then stop anyone from scoring from either side. All right, cool. So next is equipment. So we've already talked about the snitch. We're not going to go into much detail. The biggest thing to remember is just it's worth 30 points instead of 150 points because, as Marisha likes to point out, J.K. Rowling was a great author but didn't know much about sports. So making a ball worth 150 points means that you can't win unless you catch the snitch, which really sucks when you're a chaser because then you're scoring and scoring, but
And it doesn't
usually
matter. It just
you
doesn't
won't be
matter.
able to get more than 100 points in a game. And then if the other team catches the snitch, then all of your hard work is just down the toilet. So,
Yeah, not many real-life games are like Ireland, Bulgaria.
right? So yeah, snitch is worth 30 points. Then the quaffle, which is this ball right here, is it's a bit of a deflated volleyball. And ideally you can grab it with one hand, so it's deflated just enough for that. There's a specific pressure, but do I know it? Nope. So it's worth 10 points, and it goes through any of the 3 hoops. We do have 3 hoops, and they are of different sizes. And then we've got the bludgers, which Marisha has so kindly demonstrated.
And that's why I like playing beater.
Lots of anger in this small one. And then we've got brooms on the side. So I put up 3 different types of brooms. The 2 at the top are made of PVC, and they are the preferred broom of Muggle Quidditch players because they are light, sturdy, and they don't break, which has been an issue when you use wood ones. Not these ones, because these ones are super sturdy, but we've used wooden dowels, which do not recommend. So this is really fancy ones, but the bristles do tend to scratch, and so a lot of players end up cutting theirs off. So PVC brooms are usually the norm. So you can get curved ones, which look a lot cooler than the straight ones, but I prefer the straight ones for actual play. Yeah, some other equipment. So gloves are really useful because hands get slippery, and then you have better grip on quaffles and bludgers. Then you've got cleats. Cleats are really great because we do play on grass. Our Learn to Play demos, which are at 3 and 12:45 tomorrow, 3 today, 12:45 tomorrow. We're playing on concrete, but usually we play on grass. So cleats are really useful to get some grip and really boot it to the other side. And then Marisha is modeling a wonderful mouthguard. Mouthguards are very important to protect both your teeth and try to prevent concussions, which can happen because Quidditch is a full contact sport.
The field that we use is modeled after the ones in Harry Potter. Well, the whole sport's modeled after Harry Potter, so I guess that's a little redundant.
Weird.
Whatevs. We have official fields with official like sizes and all that kind of stuff. A lot of the time, it's a little bit tricky to find a fully marked Quidditch pitch. I know that there's a couple out
weird.
east at some schools where they have a bit more Quidditch history.
That's
like
crazy.
I believe Waterloo and McGill have ones just off the top of my head. We don't here. We end up just like measuring things out and using like little pylons to mark things out. Though to be honest, for a lot of practice, we're pretty happy to just like plunk down the hoops and just play with that because like it's we do have like a soft boundary around the pitch, so it is kind of like the books in that play can actually migrate off pitch. However, we do have a hard boundary now that nobody can go past because it's not a great thing to have like players running into the trees or into traffic or stuff like that.
Into traffic, that'd
That's
be awful.
yeah, that's suboptimal. Until this year, we've had they had off-pitch seeking. Like there's a history of where like at the start of the game, everyone would put their heads down, close their eyes, and the snitch would just like nope out of there, go and hide. And heard some legends about like snitches climbing up on goalposts and on the outside of buildings. And I think you had a snitch that like
Yeah, I had a snitch once that jumped into a car and
Drove away. Bye, snitch. My brother was actually a snitch at Ottawa U at one point for 1 or 2 games because he would go into classrooms and then he was told not to do that. But yeah,
little disruptive.
The rules make sense.
However, there's a good point. The snitch always does have to come back to the pitch, and so that has coordinated into what the snitch does now on the pitch.
Yeah. So now, starting this season in Canada, we just have like the snitch floor and seeker floor. So the snitch is not released at all until 17 minutes into the game, and there is no off-pitch seeking, which is kind of heartbreaking. But on the other hand, it makes it a lot more like fair and competitive of a sport with less like I don't know like losing the snitch and
it's also easier to
stuff.
actually watch seeker play because
Yeah.
if they're catching the snitch off pitch, then you don't know until they walk back. So you could be scoring, and in the meantime, play is supposed to be done. So unless we had like walkie-talkies, like shh, snitch has been caught, you know. So it has become a bit more of like a fun sport to watch.
And everybody loves watching the snitch when it's on, like you were saying, like you can steal the broom and all that. So it's really funny.
Snitch antics, they are the best. Then we come to us, Edmonton Aurors.
Yeah, so the Edmonton Aurors have been around for just over a year now, actually, at this point. And in that time, you know, I'm actually from Ontario originally, so I actually played with U Ottawa and Queen's University before I came to Edmonton. And in the time since I came to Edmonton, we've grown from, you know, 3 or 5 people consistently at practice, which it's hard to run a scrimmage at that point. But
Yep.
Over the course of the summer, we've grown exponentially. So now we're able to field a full team by ourselves.
Which is 21 players.
That's a good point. And I should mention that within Alberta, there is intergame play. So, and we've got some business cards if you're not necessarily from Edmonton, but Calgary, Red Deer, Medicine Hat, Saskatoon, Regina, a lot of teams are actually developing. So there's
Lots in BC as well.
yeah, exactly. The mountains are a little bit of a boundary, but we do cross them to.
I mean,
to
we
play
can drive
games.
it. It's just going to take us forever.
Yeah, for sure. But Edmonton in particular has seen quite a lot of growth. We play Sundays at Kinsman Park at 1:30 p.m. So at any time throughout the year, rain or shine,
Or snow.
Including tomorrow.
including tomorrow at 1:30. If you're not coming to this portion, if you're not coming to the expo tomorrow, you can come join us at Kinsman Park. Aside from the demos that will be going on here, we're going to be holding a practice there. So you're always welcome. We're looking for all types of people. As I said in the video, it takes all types of people to play this game, and we get all types of people that come to want to play this game, and it's absolutely necessary for this sport. We need all body types. We need all different types of people. We need different types of gender. You're not allowed to have just a male team.
Or just a female team.
Or just a female team. We'll talk about that more. But we're looking for all types of people, and whether you want to play competitively or not, there's lots of different levels to play. So the Edmonton Aurors right now is a community team. We play recreationally. We do play competitive games against some of our other clubs, but for the most part, we play non-contact at our Sunday practices. However, the sport itself, which we haven't mentioned, is a full contact mixed gender sport. Oh,
I said
I wasn't listening clearly, but it is full contact.
fault.
So the other team that I'll mention that is sort of separate, you can find more information about, is the Alberta Clippers. So Red Deer and Edmonton play together to play competitively against some of the larger clubs in the country. So most likely the Clippers will be going out to Eastern Canada for the Nationals in April to play teams like U Ottawa, UBC, McGill, Simon Fraser University, and Winnipeg along those lines. So.
Yeah, so we have a couple of goals in our club. Basically, it's all about delivering the sport. So obviously, we want new players to come out. We have new players who just come out like at random times. Like we don't even know new people are coming, so that's always okay and always welcome. It's very exciting for us. We want people to be more familiar with the sports, so we want people to come out and watch us as well. That would be super cool. And we want to attend more Quidditch tournaments, which would be a lot of fun. And then in terms of the long-term goals, we would really love to see more teams in Edmonton. We would love to have a recreational community team, a competitive team, as well as post-secondary team. So maybe at the U of A and McEwen, that would be really awesome. And we're hoping to have one at the U of A within a year or two, for sure.
There's definitely a lot of interest. It's just to get it going is a bit of a... It's a lot of work, actually.
It's a lot of work, yeah. And we want to see a sense of community among all of the teams. We want to be able to play each other. And just on that note, one of the most amazing things about Quidditch is after a game when you're tackling each other and beating each other in the face, instead of like that handshake, like everyone just goes in for hugs. Like you just have a line of hugs. So
it's
no
really
matter
long. And because like by the time you get your arms around everyone and then you like
but it's
release
so nice.
but it is very, very nice.
Like so we want to keep that sense of community.
I've never
in
heard
Quidditch.
somebody complain about a hug before.
I'm not saying
Seriously,
I'm
what was
complaining.
that?
I'm not complaining. I'm just saying like a 5-minute like hug line is
The
like
best.
it's a long
Yes.
hug
The
line.
best.
Yeah, Vero has places to be, so no hugging after the presentation.
Got stuff to do.
And it's not up there, but my personal dream is to see Quidditch in the Olympics. So one day.
Long-term goal, like-
one day.
Really long-term goal.
We'll start with the Pan Am Games.
Okay, yeah,
Pan Games. We could totally
that would be exciting.
take that. Diversity in players. So Chris kind of touched about it a little bit, how we need different types of people to play different types of roles. So for like example, I am a bit of a bigger girl. I'm sure you haven't noticed at all. But I can still play because I have certain strengths. So I'm really good at knowing where to be and getting there. And it's also really hard to take me down in a tackle because good luck. And it has happened. People who are stronger and bigger than me. Chris has tried to push me down a bunch of times, and he's a pack of muscles. And it's because you'd have to hit me really low. So there are advantages to being really tall, really short. Like Karine in the video mentioned that being 5'2" is usually a disadvantage, and Quidditch it's not. Whatever your body type, body size, you can play Quidditch. You just have to play to your strengths. So I tend to find a spot that I'm good at and then just move in that area and then head back for defense. But we also come from different backgrounds. Like I'm a high school teacher. Yeah. It's fun seeing my students here and going, please don't tell everyone at school that this is where I spent my weekend. And like we've got university students, like with different backgrounds. There's a cop on our team who unfortunately got injured, but
Well, he was the one who founded our team, actually.
he did,
a police
yeah.
officer.
He founded our team, and he's been really great. So different age, different genders, different sexual orientations, like everyone is welcome to play, and we actually encourage that diversity to keep it friendly and keep it really open and welcoming.
Because no one likes jocks.
Like the bro jocks, not like sporty people. We like sporty people as well. We like everyone. We're trying to be open.
We don't want jock culture, though.
So gender diversity kind of falls into that.
Yeah, one really interesting and awesome thing about Quidditch is we go a step past co-ed. We're full out mixed gender. So in the official rule book, the rule is that out of the 6 to 7 people on pitch, 7 if you include the seeker when they're on, we can have a maximum of 4 of the same gender identity on pitch at once, which I think is a really rad way to do it, because it's not like anything like the IOC or the NCAA has for like arduous requirements for like surgery or hormones or stuff like that for trans people. It's like they can just play as themselves. Plus, there's a whole bunch of like non-binary people out there, and like a lot of sports traditionally are not a particularly welcoming environment for all of those people, and we are like more than just like happy to like take in everybody, like just to be obnoxious and like quote Chris again, like not only are all types of people attracted to this game, we really need all types of people to play this game effectively. So I think this rule about the gender diversity and like the maximum 4 of the same gender identity, it really, well, for just a little sub note, US Quidditch calls this Title 9 3/4. I find that really amusing. Anyways, It really amounts to like enshrined diversity. It's like so important that it is the first thing in our rule book after the table of contents before even the introduction. It's an essential part of the sport, and we really want everyone to play it because everyone can play and can be really awesome at playing.
Quidditch Canada.
Quidditch in Canada, as I've said, I've played for a number of clubs at this point, and actually I've played for a club in the United States as well. And that's because I've also traveled around, and as Vero was mentioning, it's not just students. The vast majority of teams in Canada are made up by students. So while I was doing my undergrad at the University of Ottawa and doing my master's at Queen's, but even when I was working in Washington, D.C., and now where I work in Edmonton, there's been community teams that we can play for, and those are growing quite rapidly because there's a lot of people, while they started out in university, are now going, oh, I don't go to a university or a college anymore. Maybe I should join a
Go
team.
back.
The nice thing is, go back. And I should mention that a lot of teams, if you're in a community where there is only one team, most teams have rules where they are allowed outside players, not from the institution.
Yeah, a certain percentage, yeah.
But there's certain rules based on being a university club that 75% or 60% of the students need to be students. Quidditch actually is almost 10 years old. It's funny because, it doesn't seem like the books and the movies have been around for a long time. Quidditch, which came out around pretty much, I guess, near the first movie or just after. It was 2005 in October when the first game was played, and it was played in Middlebury, Vermont, which is just south of Montreal. So not surprising that McGill University in 2007 was the first club to develop. And quickly from there, it came to Carleton and the University of Ottawa, where I was playing at the time. So I've been playing for 5 years now, or actually going on my 6th. But and it's just broken across. Most of Canadian Quidditch teams are located in the Ontario, Quebec region. That's partially because of population density and just generally that's what's sort of been required to support. And being based off institutions, it looks like you need a university. At least it seemed like at first that you needed a university to get this started. Not necessarily anymore, and that's evident from across the West. There's definitely not as many institutions or post-secondary institutions in as many as in Ontario and Quebec in Western Canada, but as you can see from the map, they're starting to pop up all over. We just have to drive a little farther to have interplay games. But part of what Marisha was talking about was the fact that as Quidditch has developed, you've gotten to the point where there's multiple teams in one city. So Ottawa, for example, had 3 teams, and this last season had 3 teams. So they don't have to travel necessarily. Last year, as the Alberta Clippers, which encompassed the whole province, generally our shortest trip for a tournament was 6 hours. So that's playing competitively. So that's not like just going out to Sunday practice or whatever. But not anymore. So now we only have to go to Calgary as far if we want to play competitive games. So that just demonstrates to a certain extent how rapidly the sport is growing in Canada. And in the U.S., there's hundreds of teams. Of course, they have a lot more, 300 million versus 38. And then, of course, a lot more different post-secondary institutions as that's developed. But as we're seeing the emergence of community teams, it's absolutely incredible. Now, do you have to be done with university to play, or do you have to be in university or college to play? No, not necessarily. In Quebec, one of my good friends, after attending at the University of Ottawa, she went off and she got the Cégep schools. So they're pretty much like kind of community college, but they're the step before university. They're mandatory in Quebec. And they have their own league in Montreal. And so a lot of high school age students are now getting involved with the sport as well, which is absolutely incredible. But I mentioned the United States and I mentioned Canada. It goes way beyond that. It's not just a Canada, US, or even an Anglophone sort of phenomenon. You can see UK Quidditch up there, France Quidditch, Polska, Denmark, Germany, lots of countries playing. I had the privilege last year of attending the Global Games for Team Canada, and that was actually in Burnaby, BC. And that was the largest tournament to date, and we had 7 teams in attendance. So out of the teams up there, Canada, the US, Mexico, UK, France, Australia, Belgium. I think I've hit them all. Maybe I didn't.
It sounded like a lot.
Sounded like 7.
Did you say? Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so since then, it's absolutely grown as well. And even Turkey, for example, somewhere where you wouldn't necessarily expect, as Vero informed me yesterday, I guess has 7 Quidditch teams, which
That's
is
because Jill told me.
so absolutely
Spreads quickly.
absolutely fantastic. And it's, while at first, I mean, it's clearly evident that some countries are a little, haven't been playing the sport as long as others, just the rapid growth of it. In the last year, and I played at Global Games, and I can sort of speak to the level of competition if you have questions afterwards. But Marisha, I'm going to let take over because she actually played in the European Games this past summer.
Yeah, so we had the first ever European Games. So in Europe, all of the countries that have Quidditch sent in a team. And I had the opportunity to play for Team Poland because I have a Polish background. And we played with 7 players. So I did not sub at all. It was very sad. But it was really cool because you had teams like the UK and France, France won the tournament, and they did really, really well. They are definitely going to be competitive at Global Games this coming year. And then we had little teams like Ireland and Poland who just came to get the experience, and just by showing up, we didn't win any games, but just by showing up, that sport is going to develop in that country because people are going to hear about it, and it's going to spread that way. So it's very exciting.
It was determined Marisha, because Marisha was really obnoxious about it. She kept posting to Instagram about all of these wonderful things that the European Games were doing. She was in Italy for the European Games, and she said that like a lot of the shops even had like signs like supporting like European Quidditch, and
so it was in this little town called Sarteano in Tuscany. So when you think of like international tournaments, you think of like Athens, Toronto, big famous cities. So this tiny little town with like a couple thousand person population, for them to host an international tournament, they were so excited. So they had a castle, and they had like performers, and like everyone decorated the whole town. It was like Hogsmeade, genuinely. It was amazing. So
with a Tuscan flavor.
With the Tuscan, exactly. So it was a lot of fun. And again, everyone was so nice. Poland scored 1 goal in the entire tournament. But when we did, the entire 2 pitches just burst into applause and cheers, which was very cool to see. Everyone was just like really supportive. They were just happy. They were just like, why are you here if you can't even win? Like they were just happy to have us there and to be growing the sport and to see that happening. So very exciting.
We'd like to open the floor for questions. So if you have anything, I guess they've set up a mic. I don't even know if it works, but we've got great ears, so you can also just like stay in your seats if you're feeling lazy. No judgment. I know how you feel. But yeah, if you have questions, yes. There are 3 chasers, 1 keeper. The seeker doesn't go on pitch just
minutes.
yet, but I guess at 18 minutes they get released, and then 2 beaters, so 7 on pitch at a time.
Or 6, yeah.
And then with the 21 players, we end up, there's a lot of running, because like every time you get beat, you have to like dismount your broom and run back to your hoops, touch them, and that's when you can remount and start like joining play again and like handling the balls and whatever.
So we need a lot of subs.
So there's a lot of subs, and we do like subs like hockey, where it's just like free subs on the side of the pitch.
And like even chaser play, like turnabout is really, really fast, because like someone could throw the quaffle across the pitch, and then you have to go get it, and you're trying to beat the other person who's probably faster than you, and so it's a lot of running, and then you need a sub right away. But because you're subbing so quickly, if you only have 1, you don't really have time to catch your breath, or if you don't have any, then you never have time to catch your breath.
You just cry the whole time.
But yeah, so having more subs is definitely beneficial. Chris?
Yeah, so there's 1 keeper on each team, and pretty much they are like a chaser in the sense that they handle the quaffle. Chasers and keepers aren't allowed to interact with bludger play, unless they get hit, of course, which we're trying not to as much as possible. Clearly, cheap shots sitting at a panel, didn't expect that. Anyways, the only aspect of the keeper necessarily is like in soccer. Technically, a goalie can bring up the ball as well, but they're allowed certain extra rules. If they catch the ball within their box or their end, there's a line that denotes that the ball is safe, just similar to soccer. They're able to stick their hand through the hoops, or defend their hoops. They're the person that is denoted to defend the hoops necessarily, but they are allowed, once they leave their box, pretty much they are the equivalent of a chaser. There's no other special rules.
So there's like one keeper on field, and I think for Clippers we've decided one sub, so they just switch each other out.
Yeah, 2 to 3 on a team.
The snitch is it's like a neutral referee position. So like for reffing the game, we usually have a head ref, 3 hopefully assistant refs, goal refs to watch the hoops. Because there's 4 balls in play at once plus the snitch. That's a little bit to watch and keep track of. So we have a bunch of refs. The snitch is also basically a referee position, and it's neutral, not attached to the teams, and hopefully a good runner because they're going to be doing a lot of that without subbing.
However, there are lots of people. There are people, like including myself, I'll snitch every now and again. So it's not like we just pull them out of the woodwork separately. There are people that enjoy.
You snitch.
Sometimes we have to do that, but
Voluntold.
There's a lot of people that enjoy doing the position. So I mean, it's definitely an aspect. In other clubs, I've had people that have just come out and said, "Hey, love Quidditch, but I'm really interested in just snitching." It's like awesome. And that's fantastic. So it is a neutral position, and usually at tournaments, when there's 2 teams playing, another team will provide that snitch, if possible. Sometimes it's from one of the teams, just as necessary. So.
Like we had a Calgary fantasy tournament, so basically individuals would sign up, and then they were split off into teams. But we didn't have like a snitch officially, so people from different teams volunteered for different games.
Like, it's nerds who play Quidditch, and nerds tend to be pretty cool.
Most of the time.
Not all. It's just the people who started it thought that was really important, and so the people who are drawn to it also think it's really, really important.
I mean, in the books, all of the teams were not... They were co-ed, to be specific, because in the books, as we all know, there are no trans characters. However, even in the books, Slytherin has women on the team. No, in the books they don't, but in the movies they do. Because I remember that one keeper is female, I think, or one of the beaters.
Great memory.
No, either way, nerd. But essentially, like in the books, they don't segregate per gender, and as our definition of gender is expanding, so is the sports definition of gender.
Yeah, and I think Marisha makes a really good point. It's the fact that we are flexible in that we are so young as a sport. In the time that I've been playing, in the U.S. anyways, they're on their 9th rule book, which shows you that from when it was played at Middlebury 10 years ago, even the sport itself has changed in terms of the rules, the positions in plays. So we're at that point where we're flexible, and I mean, we're hardening up at this point, and so, it's kind of cool that in that period, that change happened. I mean, and as Marisha said, in terms of, at least in my experience, always diverse group of people, and usually progressive people are just attracted to sport. And one of the things that I really believe in is, everybody should be able to play, right? Whether they come from a sports background. It's funny, my friend who went and founded the CEGEP League had never played a sport before in her life and came for just the love of the books. And she is now like incredibly into it. I mean, extremely sporty, only in the sense of Quidditch. But otherwise, that would not have been a verb that would not have been a word to describe her. So
Adjective.
I know. That's why I said word. I changed it out. So, I did political science, not grammar.
Language backgrounds right here.
Go for it.
Yeah, so the broom's essentially like a handicap. So like you have to figure out how to catch with one hand, or and when you're tackling, you can only go one arm and things like that.
You ever try to run around on a broomstick? Not necessarily easy. And so the broomstick always has to stay between your legs at all times, and that is a really big challenge. And I mean, even once you get used to it, like I'm walking around practice and the broomstick's between my legs the whole time, and I don't realize it, right? Even so, doing some of the physical, athletic nature aspects to the sport is really difficult to still maintain with a broom. And so, as sort of Cameron was explaining, if you fall off your broom or your beat, which is again coming off your broom, that's what's sending you back to the hoops and really changing the nature of the game, because you are not allowed to participate in any play if you're not on your broom. So
It's also fun to watch new players trip over their brooms.
Or just like pull them out because they forget and then they're running like with their broom.
Because when you're standing, you don't realize it's there, and then they're running, and then it just like drops on the ground. Like grab their ball and then run away.
We won't laugh at you if you come to Quidditch.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that.
Cameron?
It's not like for like a sport concern, but just at a personal level. One of the things I really like about the brooms and just little Quidditch is it's a full-on sport. It gets really competitive. People go really hard. Even at a competitive level, like with tackling and everything, it's really competitive. Yet you're doing all of this with a broom between your legs.
So it's always
And
a little silly.
that keeps an element of silliness and fun to it that I think a lot of other sports don't have. And that's one of the draws for me, is it mixes that it can mix really competitiveness with just like the funness of sport.
So we do have to wrap up. So, yeah.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for coming
Thank you
out.
for coming.